Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to talk about measurement. And we're going to start with the US customary units of measure. And we're going to really dive into this idea of dimensional analysis, which is really involving how do I change from unit to unit? How would I go from inches to feet or from yards to inches and so on? So we know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. We have 3 feet in 1 yard, and we have 5,280 feet in 1 mile. And we can convert back and forth between all of these different units. When we talk about weight in the US, we think about ounces, pounds, and tons. There are 16 ounces in 1 pound. There's 2,000 pounds in 1 ton. And then when we think about capacity, so I want you to think about liquids here, measuring liquids. We can talk about 8 fluid ounces. Now, these ounces are different than these ounces. This is in terms of weight, whereas fluid ounces is in terms of liquid. There's 8 fluid ounces in 1 cup. There's 2 cups in 1 pint, 2 pints in 1 quart, and 4 quarts in 1 gallon. And what we want to do is use these equivalencies to set up a conversion rate. And then we're going to end up multiplying fractions. So we know when we multiply fractions, we multiply across. So let's say we have 2/3 times 4/5. We're just going to multiply those fractions straight across. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 5 is going to be 15. So the idea of dimensional analysis is really similar to how we multiply fractions. We also know that if we have things that reduce, then we can reduce them before we multiply. So let's say we have 2/3 times 3/5. Since I have a 3 in the top and the bottom, they can reduce. 3 goes in the 3 one time. And then we can multiply straight across to get that final answer. So we're going to use those same ideas in converting between units. Let's look at a few examples. We want to convert 18 inches to feet. We know that there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So 18 inches. And then we're going to multiply by this conversion factor. Now, if I want inches to cancel and I'm multiplying by a fraction, I need my inch stuff down here, and I know there's a relationship between inches and feet. We know there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So there's my conversion factor that I'm multiplying by. And then we're just going to multiply straight across. Inches are going to cancel because I've got 1 in the top and bottom. So I'm going to have 18 times 1, which is 18 feet. And that's going to be divided by 12. And we know we can reduce that. 18 divided by 12. If we type that in our calculator, we're going to get 1.5. So 18 inches is equivalent to 1.5 feet. So let's do a few more. Let's say we want to look at capacity. Maybe we have 3 gallons of liquid, and we want to convert to cups. So we can set up our conversion factors. We're looking at 3 gallons. So we know a few things, right? Going back to our ideas of capacity, we know 2 cups equals 1 pint. We know 4 pints equals 1 quart. And we know 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So we're going to go through a few of these. So we know there's a relationship between gallon and quarts. So 1 gallon. And I notice I put that on the bottom so that the gallons are going to cancel. 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. So 4 quarts is going to go on top. So that's going to take me to gallons. Now I'm going to, that's going to take me to quarts. And now I need to cancel quarts. So that's where I'm going to use this conversion factor. We know in 1 quart, there's 4 pints. Notice I put the quart on the bottom because I need it to cancel with that one. And then Now I need to relate pints and cups. We know 1 pint has 2 cups. And I put the pints on the bottom here so that they would cancel. So when I multiply across the top and then across the bottom, I'm going to get 3 times 4 times 4 times 2. 3 times 4 times 4 times 2 is 96. And then I've got 1 times 1 times 1 in the bottom. And the only units that did not cancel out was cups, which was by design. That's what we wanted. And 96 divided by 1 is 96. And let's do one with weight. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so I've got more room to write. Let's say we've got 52 ounces and we want to go to pounds. The abbreviation for pounds is LBS. So we're starting with 52 ounces. We know that 16 ounces is in 1 pound. So I'm going to use that conversion factor here. So if I want to cancel ounces, I need ounces to be down here. There's 16 ounces in 1 pound. And since I've got ounces in the bottom and ounces in the top, those are going to cancel. And then we're just going to multiply straight across. So I'm going to have 1 times 52, which is 52. And the bottom, I'm just going to have the 16. And my units are going to be pounds. So 52 divided by 16 is 3.25. So we have 3.25 pounds out of that 52 ounces. Now let's talk about the metric system. The metric system is based on base 10. So we're going to see prefixes like kilo, hecto, and deca. So these are going to be your larger units. So think about a kilometer. A kilometer is pretty large distance. And these are going to be your smaller units. Deci, centi, and milli. So think about like a centimeter. A centimeter is pretty small. And we can convert back and forth by remembering an acronym. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. It's a silly acronym, but it gets us from point A to point B. So this is going to stand for kilo, hecto, deca. This is your base, so your base unit, which is going to be in, could be in meters. If we're talking about length, it could be liters. If we're talking about capacity, and grams if we're talking about weight. And these are the smaller ones. So deci, centi, and milli. And what's nice about that acronym is that if we know where we're starting and where we want to end up, we can just count how many spaces we're going to end up moving. And it doesn't matter what that base is. So I'm going to write my acronym here. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And let's look at a few examples. In this example, we want to convert 0.38 meters to millimeters. So 0.38 meters. So we're starting with that base in meters, and we want to go here. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3 places to the right, which means we're going to move this decimal 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So 0.38 meters is equal to 380 millimeters. So let's do a few more. Let's say we want to convert 530 centimeters to kilometers. So we're going to use our King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk again. We're starting here at centimeters. We want to go here. We're just going to count how many times we're going to move that decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So we're going to do the same thing with this decimal here. So we're at 530. That decimal is understood to be here. So we're going to move it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then this is going to be equal to, we're going to have to substitute in zeros there, annex a few zeros. So 0.0053 kilometers. So this slide is going to talk more about grams and what they are. So there's a relationship between mass and weight. Weight is the measure of how strongly the earth is pulling on an object. So weight is going to be less in space than it is on the surface of the earth because the earth has a gravitational force, and in space you don't have that gravitational force being applied. Weight would be different on Earth versus the moon or Mars because the gravitational force would be different. But the amount of material in the object, which is the mass, is going to be the same. And the gram is the unit of mass in the metric system. And so we can use that King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk for grams. We could also use it for liters. We can use it for any of them. So let's look at this one. We want to convert 4.23 grams to milligrams. So I'm going to write my acronym. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. I'm starting with that gram. Gram is the base. And I want to move to milligrams. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 times, which means I'm going to move that decimal 1, 2, 3 times. So 4.23 grams is equal to 4,230 milligrams. So let's do another one. Let's say we start with 5,245 milligrams, and we want to convert to, let's go to hectograms. So we're going to go to here. So I'm going to erase my marks above. I'm starting with milli. I want to go to the H. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So move that decimal 5 times to the left. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 0.05245, and that would be in hectograms. And then this slide's talking about capacity, which is measured in liters. So same acronym is going to apply. So let's look at a few examples. We want to convert 4,327 centiliters to liters. So I want to go centiliters to liters, which is my base. So I'm going to move the decimal 1, 2 times to the left, which means I'm going to do the same thing with this decimal, 1, 2 times to the left. So 43.27 liters is in 4,327 centiliters. So now let's talk about converting back and forth between metric and the customary US units. So these measurements are going to be a little bit different. So 1 inch has about 2.54 centimeters. 1 meter has about 3.28 feet. 1 meter is approximately 1.09 yards. And a mile is approximately 1.61 kilometers. When we talk about weight, so we're talking about going from our US weights to grams. 1 ounce is about 28.35 grams. 1 pound is approximately 454 grams. And 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. When we talk about capacity, 1 liter is about 1.06 quarts, and 1 gallon is about 3.79 liters. So let's look at a few examples. In this example, we have the price of gas as $3.89 per gallon. we want to find the cost per liter. So it's $3.89 per gallon. So per means divide. So we've got that set up. And we want to go to per liter. We know there's a relationship between them. So there are 3.79 liters in 1 gallon. So let me make this smaller so we can see everything on one screen. So I want to cancel gallons. So I'm going to use gallons since this is on the bottom. Gallons needs to be on the top. That means liters are going to be on the bottom. And I'm just going to put those numbers in the right places. I've got 1 gallon and I've got 3.79 liters. So my gallons are going to cancel, and then we're just going to multiply straight across. So I've got 389 times 1, which is 389, and I've got 3.79 in the bottom, and that bottom unit's going to be liters, and then we're going to divide that. So 3.89 divided by 3.79, and if I'm talking about money, I'm around the 2 decimal places. So I got 1.02, and that would be the cost per liter for gas. So let's look at another example. It's common for people to run like a 5K, which would be 5 kilometers. Let's convert that to miles. So if we're talking about 5 kilometers, we know there's a relationship between kilometers and miles. So if I go back to my conversion units up here, here's my relationship. I want to cancel kilometers, so kilometers are going to have to go down here. And I want to get miles, so the miles are going to have to go on top. So that's going to cancel my kilometers. And then we're just going to put those numbers in the right place. 1.61's got to go on the bottom, and that's equivalent to 1 mile on the top. If I multiply through, I'm going to get 5 divided by 1.61. And notice we've got that miles, which is in the top of the fraction. And 5 divided by 1.61 is about 3.11. And then we could talk about weights. So maybe we have something that's 31 kilograms, and we want to know how many pounds it is. So we've got 31 kilograms. Looking at our conversion factor, 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds approximately. If I want to cancel kilograms, I've got to, in this case, I got to put it on the bottom. I want to convert to pounds. 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. And then we're just going to multiply across. 31 times 2.2 is 68.2. And I'm going to divide that by 1, which is just going to be that 68.2.